Do you believe that I actually made this from scratch? Yes, homemade pizza looks just as good as this and tastes better than your favorite restaurant? Say it isn't so. Yes, it is. And you can use the same recipe and make Italian bread all at the same time. And I'm going to talk to you and show you how I did it.
So, what is this, some movie time?
All right. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Today, I know we've kind of gone back and forth to a few.
Today, Junior?
I'm sorry, we seem to be having some technical difficulties.
Different things. Well, today is Friday, it's family night, and I'm going to talk about one thing that I do often, and that is...
Hey guys, do I look different now that I'm a college grad?
...is making Italian bread, but also taking that and using that same dough for pizza. So what I'm going to do right now is show you how I make the bread and how I make the pizza dough. Basically, it's just taking that one recipe, separating it in half, using one for the loaf of bread, the other for the pizza dough.
I am the smartest man alive!
And let's get started. So, first of all, I have to start with all-purpose flour. Now, if I'm just doing the bread, I'm going to use bread flour because bread flour, it rises a little bit better, at least as far as what I've seen. It definitely looks a lot better when it's done. I also don't have to spend as much time proofing. But for this, I'm using the all-purpose flour because I want to make sure that it doesn't get too big. It doesn't rise too much because the pizza will look crazy.
Hey, baby. I'm like pretty tall.
If I let it rise too much, or when it bakes, the middle of it will get kind of crazy. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use all-purpose flour. I use sugar in the raw. You don't have to use this type, but it's like a cane sugar. It tastes so much better than that standard white powder sugar, and it's just amazing. All right, kosher salt. This isn't the best salt that you can use, but it is one of the ones that I use on a regular basis. I know there are some better brands out there, so just let me know. Yeast, standard yeast. What I do is I take it out of the package, I put it in here, and I put it in the freezer. So this saves it a little bit longer. Let me see. Warm water. Use warm water for the proofing, hotter water for the mixture when you're starting the dough. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So first of all, what I need to do is I take I think it's a half cup of one other thing. So what is really nice when we are talking about doing these recipes is having this refrigerator right over here. Let me see if I can't zoom in. Okay, so let's bring that up a little closer. All right, so what I have here is a website right up. This is the same bread recipe I use on a regular basis. I love this recipe. Now, there are probably some better ones. If you have some better ideas or a recipe that you love, please share. Because I love making bread. I love using it for the pizza as well. But if you have a better idea or a better recipe, please let me know. So all we have to do is jump to the recipe, come down here, and as you can see, it's Amanda's Cooking. I don't know if you're familiar with that website, but I just found one when I wanted to try it for the first time. I'm a creature of habit, so as soon as I found it and I liked it, I stuck with it. Now, I've changed a few things to suit my taste, but for the most part, everything I'll leave the way it is. So first of all, we're going to use 1.5 tablespoons of the yeast. So let me get this. And what's so nice about that refrigerator is that I can leave it up and I'm able to film, and I got the recipe up there. Before, I've always had to pull it up on my my phone. So I've got the refrigerator to do that. Also, This thing is great. One of these days, maybe I'll go into it a little bit more. But it's a Samsung, fantastic. I absolutely love this thing. All right, so we said 1.5 tablespoons of the yeast. Right. Now let's keep this sealed. Right, next is 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. Now it says standard sugar, but this is where I deviate a little bit, because I want to make sure that it is as tasty as possible. And this sugar, if you haven't had sugar in the raw in coffee, it's a humongous difference. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. Is we are going to add 1/2 cup of warm water. Now you want it to be warm. You don't want it to be hot, because then it'll actually kill the yeast. And we want this to proof. And when we do this, I generally let it proof for as long as I'm mixing the other ingredients. So that's what we're going to do next. All right, so got the warm water. Again, warm water. I'm gonna pour this right in here like that. Got a small whisk. So I want to make sure is when you're mixing this up, you want it all to condense into that water, so it makes a nice mixture. That way it activates that yeast much better. So it takes a few seconds here to make sure it's all well mixed.
2 hours later, he was...
Well worth it. All right. Once we do that, so we're just going to set that aside. So that's the mixture of yeast, water, and sugar. Going to put that off to the side. All right, I'm going to face this down a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, so got a regular mixer here. So first thing we want to do is we are going to get 2 cups of hot water. So hot water is okay for this, because while you're mixing everything else, it's going to cool off by the time the yeast gets into it. So let me get that started. All right, so one other thing I forgot to mention. Olive oil.
What about the extra virgin olive oil?
It says to use regular cooking oil, olive oil,
Supposed to be olive oil.
Italian bread. How can you go wrong? I love olive oil. So this recipe requires 1/2 cup. So we'll be putting that in next. Now, sugar, I'm going to put that in first. Now the recipe does say 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Now, of course, I like a little sweeter bread.
Next, you take a mound, and I mean a mound of sweet bread.
And plus with pizza dough, it tastes fantastic. So what I'm going to do, it's going to be more like 3.5 tablespoons. All right. Okay, and then next we want 1 tablespoon of salt. All right. Okay. Again, people have different preferences as far as what salt they use. I'm using kosher salt. Sea salts, I won't use standard table salt. So 1 tablespoon of this. All right, and now we want 1/2 cup of oil. And again, this is regular virgin olive oil. Extra virgin, I guess you would say. Oh, and do let me know if you want to see me cook more. I'm more of a baker, but I'm trying my hand at different things because I do have 3 little girls. They're all picky. They all have their own different tastes. So we have to keep on trying different things to see if they are going to eat what I give them. Now, that's the trick. All right, so we have those things in there. Let's try to get as much of the oil out. All right, so next, we are going to add 3 cups of flour. Now again, I'm using all-purpose flour for this, but I use bread flour a lot. I got a 25-pound bag. Of course, I didn't get this at Kroger or anything. I think it was Sam's Club. I'm sure Kroger has, or you know, your standard grocery store has this, but Sam's Club definitely has pretty good prices. Costco, that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm doing 3 cups. I'm not exact, if you notice. I'm not trying to measure things. There are some recipes that I use that actually you'll weigh the flour, but here we're just getting it in there. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna let that mix. Now, as you can see here, we have the mixture for the yeast. It's proofing, so it starts to bubble up a little bit, and when you see a nice foam,
Double foam, am I right?
that's when you know it's about ready. Boy, I'm having trouble getting this to stay up. Okay, so that's why I have time to do all this mixing, because by the time we're done mixing, the proofing mixture should be ready. And again, that proof mixture is the water, the little bit of sugar, and your yeast. Now you can use instant yeast. Right now I'm just using regular yeast. Instant yeast you won't have to proof it like I am right now. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix this up as good as possible. It's gonna be a little lumpy because you don't have all the water in it, so that doesn't matter, because once you put in the other mixture, that's when it's gonna get a little smoother. This recipe you don't have to knead. Now, if it's something that you like to do, go for it. But using the blender will actually take care of that altogether. I mean, it's a kneading attachment basically. So I like exercise like the next person, but I'm not a fan of kneading. So there we go. All right. Make sure that you have one of these handy, spatula, so that you can get some of the flour off the sides as this is going. There we go. And continue. And this mixture will go for, I'm going to probably mix it for, probably 5 minutes. So in all, 15 minutes for the proofing. So by the time we are done with that mixing, the proofing mixture is going to be about ready. And I will show you the result of that here in a second, because it is about done.
It's actually a wheatgrass ginger mixture.
All right. We're going to have a little bit more background noise, so try to ignore that for me, please. So here we have that mixture I was talking about. So it's bubbled up a lot more, if you notice. So that's the yeast activating. So this is primed and ready to go into the rest. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so now that we have the mixture, we got the proof into the mixture, so we're gonna add the 3 other cups of the flour. So we already got 3 cups in there. We've mixed it up a little bit, and now 3 more cups, and you shouldn't need any more, but keep a tablespoon handy, because sometimes you do want to add a little bit more as you're going to get the right consistency once it's all mixed, because you don't want it sticking to the sides. A little bit to the bottom is okay, but if it's that sticky, you need to have a little bit more flour. All right, So I'll put 2 in there, and I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. And the reason why we want to do this is we don't want to mess up a newly cleaned kitchen. When you have somebody that takes their time out during the day to clean up the kitchen, you don't want to mess it up for them.
Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
So, all right, that's mixed up a little bit. What we're gonna do is add 1 last cup. All right. Start off slow. This part is probably going to take about 10 minutes or so, 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how much you want to knead it. Or you knead it in the blender for a couple of minutes and then take it out and knead it by hand. Again, for me, I'm going to let the blender do all the work. I don't have that kind of time. I get enough exercise with these 3 girls, so why do I want to pull it out and do all that kneading? No, that's what you got a blender for. All right, pause it for a second. All right, so after that, and it's mixed, it's gonna look a little bit like that, sticking to the sides just a tad bit. I'm going to use the spatula to pull it off and out. I'll manipulate it a little bit to shape it into a nice ball. All right, so pulling it out of the blender, adding just a little bit more of the flour. This is what we have. A nice dough ball. Not too sticky. It is a little tacky. You want it to be a little bit tacky.
Tacky? Sir, I'll have you know.
So what I do is I'm gonna form this into a nice ball, and we're gonna keep everything tied off. All right, lost the phone for a couple minutes, but here we are. We are at that final product. So I was showing exactly what I was doing as far as the dough ball is concerned, tightening it up at the very bottom so that it forms nicely as it rises. So what we're going to do is we'll cover it with a towel, and this can be let to rise for about an hour, but in this case I'm going to go a little bit less and use part of it for pizza dough. The other part I'll let rise a little bit longer, and we'll put that for the bread loaf. So pause for now, and you'll see the finished product here in a second. All right, so here we are. We have about a half an hour of rising. So, like I said, I'm going to stop this midway through. Generally go for the hour, but half an hour. I'm going to take it. We're going to cut it in half, probably a little bit more 60-40. 40% goes to the pizza dough. The other is going to go right back in to keep on rising. But we'll use the spatula to help pull that out. It will stick to the sides a little bit. The nice thing about solid countertops is you can clean them off and use that to maneuver the dough a little bit. So I'm going to pull the rest of it out. The sides, we're going to put it down. All right. So what we're going to do is just kind of push out excess air.
It's not a tumor.
Spread it out a little bit. Of course, I wiped off the counters so they're nice and clean. Don't want to have germs. All right. Okay, so again, you're going to be cutting this right there. We're going to take this, we're going to bundle it back up. Do much the same thing. When we put this back to a ball, we are going to squeeze that tight, and we're going to put it right back into the bowl, and we're going to cover it back up with a towel. That's going to keep it moist so you don't get any dry spots on the dough. All right, so now we have this piece. I'm going to fold it over a couple times, and then we are going to do the pizza toss. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but it works to a certain extent, and then I'll kind of flatten it out and toss some more. All right, Roblox in the background, 3 kids playing, pizza dough, getting ready.
And they mostly come at night, mostly.
I'm going to show this right here. All right, noise break.
Be quiet!
So, we have a disc shape. I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. Kind of spread it out. All right, and then we are going to start flipping. This is going to allow centrifugal forces.
Please allow me to demonstrate the law of centrifugal force.
To spread it out. Now, I'm no pizza dough maker, I'm no pro tosser. I know that there are people out there that can do this so much better, but it is satisfying. It does work to a certain degree, and if you have any tips, you know what to do. The tip would be don't let it drop on the floor. That would be the first tip. No, it looks good. I think we're good. I don't think we see anything.
Are we all right?
Please. Kill me.
Get back!
We don't edit out bloopers around here. All right. After that little fiasco, and I washed the dough. No, I didn't. There's nothing in the dough. It all looks fantastic. And it's gonna be in the oven, so it's gonna burn away anything that I might have picked up. So we are good. Burn, 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 burn. It's gonna be wonderful. So, after having flipped it around, this is what I'm doing. I'm slowly stretching it out. I'm sure I can keep on flipping it, but obviously I can't catch, so we're gonna keep it on here, and we're gonna keep on stretching out the dough. Now you wanna also make sure that you oil your sheets, but I'm gonna do that afterward because if you are stretching the dough out on an oiled sheet, it's just gonna keep on rebounding back. So we'll do that after we've done this. And I've already made the mistake of not stretching the dough out enough. So if the middle is still kind of thick, it is going to balloon. So you'll have a deep dish pizza when you might be looking for something a little bit thinner. But the good thing is, if you're feeding hungry kids, one piece is all it takes. They're not going to want to have anything else. All right, now work on this a little bit, and then we'll show you the finished product on that. All right, so we got the shape. What I'm doing right now, if you like a little bit thicker pizza, which I do, and my girls do as well, we're gonna round off the edges. So we're curling those up so that it will give that outside crust. So dual purposes. Have the outside crust the way you're used to, and keep that tomato sauce from going all over the place. Now, I know there are other people that have their taste on thin pizza. This is not a thin crust pizza. You will see once we're done that this is definitely a bread with yeast in it because it's gonna rise. The one thing that you want to make sure if you are doing it the way that I'm doing it, take a fork or something that's gonna poke holes into the middle and all around. That's gonna help the dough cook all the way through. So that's what I'm gonna do next after I've rounded off the edges. I'm gonna poke holes, and then we're gonna start putting some pizza sauce on it. And I don't use a pizza sauce. I just use a standard tomato sauce, and I'm gonna put some basil and oregano. You can also put all your toppings on the sauce first.
With spam, 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 cough spam.
You know, like onions, pineapple. But for the girls, we're just doing cheese, mozzarella. It can be a blend. And we'll do some pepperoni generally, or just a cheese pizza. Alright, and this is what it's looking like so far. We are almost there. Make sure I don't lose my phone so you can see a good image. So again, want to keep on spreading it out as you're going. That way you don't have too thick of a center. Because again, this dough isn't specifically made for pizzas, but it sure tastes good. Alright, not Italian, not a pro. I know it's a mess, but it's gonna work. It'll look good, I promise.
Pizza, pizza.
This is my pizza sauce. You can use anything.
Jovi licorice sauce.
This is nothing special. It does taste pretty good. Great value. I'm not going to advertise the store. I'm sure if you've seen it, you know where I get it. But nothing special. What we're going to do... Oh, hold on. Now that I have somebody holding the camera, I almost forgot exactly what I was just saying we want to do. We want to make sure there are holes in the middle of the pizza. And again, this is going to make sure that it cooks all the way through. Also, it's going to help deflate
I'm deflated.
the middle a little bit as it's cooking, because it's going to rise, and it's going to rise. So, make sure that you get that part in. There's going to be some thin areas.
Danger, thin ice.
But again, as it gets bigger, you'll never notice. All right, so use a spoon to help spread. And generous helping of the sauce all around. Now it's up to you to taste exactly how much you want to use. You are probably going to get the idea once you make this pizza for the first time exactly what's going to work, what's not going to work. I'm still in the feeling out phase. What exactly my kids are going to eat and what they're not going to eat. So we're just practicing as we go. I'm going to put a little bit more on. Whoa, that was a lot more. Hold on. All right. And you don't want to have too much of the sauce because then it will never cook all the way through. So there might be a better mechanism of pouring, but for time's sake, I'm just pouring it straight on there. Now, I don't have anything else that I put in the sauce, but I am gonna add a little bit of oregano and a little bit of basil. Pause it. All right, next step, arguably one of the most important steps, mozzarella. And be generous.
Too generous.
Nobody likes a tomato pizza. You gotta have a good amount of cheese on it. Huh? That's what editing is for, ladies and gentlemen. Remove unwanted voices that might be saying things about a video game in the background. And I will tell you this right now, if you try it exactly like I'm doing it, this will be some of the best pizza you have ever had. Way better than any of those delivery pizzas you can get.
To work at Mr. Pizza Coley's Pronto Pizza Delivery.
Alright. Yeah. Alright. Girls. Alright, after a little bit of basil. A little bit of oregano. Well, that's not working. And pepperoni. All right. So what we're gonna do is you're just gonna layer these one after the other. Oh, have some on the floor, that's perfect. And you can put more or less according to taste. I like to just make sure it gets covered. When this pizza blows up, and oh yes, it will blow up, it'll look like there are fewer pieces of pepperoni on it. So do make sure you cover it as much as possible. Of course, my girls like pepperoni, but then there'll be times that they remove it. So it's hard to ever get everything perfect where everybody likes what they're getting. So that's life with all women. That's life.
It was torture. Straight torture, son. First torture. You want torture? I'll give you torture.
Here to say anything, wifey?
No.
And there we have it. Beautiful pizza that will go into the oven as soon as my little girls quiet down. Thank you. Into the oven, and we will cook it or bake it 375 to 400 depending on your oven for 25 minutes. Of course, once you've done it, make sure you check the middle because it could be a little bit too moist. So feel free to let it be in there a little bit longer. You can have it a little bit brown, but it's gonna be delicious. It's gonna be nice and soft. I'll show you the end product in just a second. All right, so here we have the second half of the dough. It's about the right size. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay this out on the counter. I do have a grease baking sheet, but I'll lay this out on the counter and we are going to First of all, get the rest of the dough out of here. Ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, so same thing as what we did the last time. We're gonna knead this a little bit. We're gonna push the excess air out of it. Now, there's two ways that you could do this. One way is exactly what I'm about to do right now, is just pushing this down, rolling it up, putting it onto a baking sheet. Or you can take the same thing and you can put it into a bread pan. This, I like it free form. It definitely expands a little bit better, but if you like it really formed nicely, a bread pan will work. And it will look really nice, but this just allows it to expand more. What I'm doing is I'm just gonna get a nice rectangular shape. Want it to be evened out, and we're just gonna roll it. And you want to make sure it's even all the way through. It's going to have a little bit of that standard bread shape where it's a little heavier in the middle.
Peter Griffin, cabin clown.
And smoother and smaller on the side. But this is what you're going to come up with afterwards. So you want to make sure that you fold the bread onto itself, or the dough onto itself. That way when it's baking, it doesn't start to separate. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's not gonna look as good. And we all want our bread to look nice, don't we? Alright, so, oiled sheet. We have a nice shape. This can continue to rise. So we've done that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a knife. Everybody knows those standard slots you put on Italian bread. And that, I have no idea why we do that, but we do it. So there you go, and it looks nice. All right, so we're gonna cover that back up, and we're gonna let that rise for another 30 minutes or so. In this case, maybe a little bit shorter, so I can get it in the oven and I'm not baking until 12 o'clock, so. All right, now we have the bread. So this is the Italian bread, and what I have here is an egg wash. This is what's gonna give it the nice golden brown look when it bakes in the oven. Now, again, I used all-purpose flour, so it rose, but if I were using bread flour, it would be probably 1.5 times the size it is right now. So when it bakes, it will bake up a little bit, but it's not going to be quite as large had I used bread flour. So, but it's still going to be delicious. And goes right in right after the pizza. There we go. Excuse me. And this is going to bake for about 28 minutes. Your oven is going to differ, so adjust time accordingly. Some ovens cook a little bit hotter. We have a convection oven, but I'm not using convection, I'm using standard. But 28 minutes and we'll show you the finished product. All right, and here we have the finished product. As you can see, it gets very thick. It's a little like a deep dish, just on the baking pan, but this is going to be absolutely delicious pizza. I'll show you a slice when we cut it up. Bring it out. All right, here we go. The full look of the pizza. It looks really good, especially when you put a little bit of the oregano and the basil, so it gives it a little color. Definitely just looks so fantastic. And All right, and here we have the cut slices. And if only you could smell that. Oh, it's brilliant. All right. Nothing ever beats the smell of fresh bread. Yes, fresh bread. Look at how amazing that looks. And this is delicious stuff. Italian bread, made fresh. And everything took about 2 hours to do in all, the bread and the pizza. So I hope you got some enjoyment out of this, and I will leave the recipe that I used in the description. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you for watching.